It's what's in your wallet.
I'm so old.
I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5 explosive hot dog carts.
Ritualistic blood magic.
Laser shooting chesty statues.
Don't watch movies unless we tell you to. Welcome to Movies with My Best Friend Phil, a movie podcast hosted by 3 best friends who love each other this much.
Oh dear.
I'm your host, Phil Kessel, and I'm joined by 2 people I love this much. Craig Norland, I love you.
Wait, you just held up your fingers and put them really close together when you said this much.
Okay, but if you think about it, if we're talking like atoms and space and percentage of like empty space, it's that much.
Oh, okay.
I think it's still meaningful. Listen, you're not my dog. Sure. I don't love you as much as my dog.
It's true.
I'm meaningful in a microscopic way.
Yeah. So are germs.
Thanks. Yeah, both useful.
Probably.
Germs are. I don't know about you.
Yeah. They do science with germs.
Yeah.
Will Chotis, William, I love you.
Yeah, I know. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing really good, guys.
Yeah.
Feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm vibing.
Yeah.
It's a good day. I have some housekeeping. I have an announcement. We've accepted an offer on our house.
Oh, all right.
Ooh,
so
nice.
It's one step further. We're also gonna see about signing the paperwork for a lease on a new apartment in your area-ish, like 20 minutes away. So it's happening, guys. It's happening.
Yeah,
and I'm very excited.
Coming back.
I miss you guys. I want to be what I want.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to make a pledge to me on air right now.
Absolutely not.
I would like to be best friends in person again.
Okay.
So if you could pledge that to me, that'd be great.
You've got a lot of work to do. We'll see how it goes. We'll put you in for a trial period when you get here. We'll
that's
say,
fair.
90 days, 90-day trial period. We'll give it a try. And we'll let you know.
Is that where the word trial comes from? The word try? Because you're trying?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Where does anything come from,
That's a good point. That's a great point.
Most linguists and things like that know. Anywho.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we're really excited. It's happening like a couple weeks, and I'll be back in Michigan in time for a little bit of fall stuff. Get some cider and donuts. They have cider and donuts out here, but it's just not. It doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, not a lot of apple orchards.
They've got some, but it's not. They've got like peaches are big out here, but they grow them on the western slope, so it's like it's not even like you go to a. I feel like you don't even go to a peach orchard here. It's just you get peaches here from the other side of the state.
Lame.
Yeah, it's all right. Colorado's fine, but it's no Michigan.
Well, speaking of things that aren't Michigan, occasionally I have to pay for things with something that isn't Michigan, and I often keep it in my pants. And also, unlike Michigan, it's actually kind of like Michigan. It's quite brown sometimes.
Oh yeah,
and it's often surrounded by water because of how much I sweat.
Yeah, I get that.
And but I can't seem to remember what it's called off the top of my head. It is a jumpsuit. Is that what it is?
I think so. It's either a jumpsuit or a wallet.
Oh, that's right. It's time for the segment where we reach deep in our best friend's pants and reach out some recommendations. It's What's in Your Wallet? If you want to end them earlier, Craig, you can just say the word wallet.
No. I'm not going to take your fun away.
See, the thing is, he secretly loves it. That's why he doesn't end it early. He has the power. He's had it the whole time.
All right, Phil, what's in your wallet?
Oh my gosh, I have like quite a lot, but I'm gonna narrow it down to two things. Two forms of media that I consumed. One is a television and one is a movie. So we'll go with the television first, because you guys are like champing at the bit for like, you guys are begging me for like, what's my TV show recommendation right now?
Absolutely. I'm not worried I'm going to fall asleep during this recording at all.
Have you guys played the new Tomb Raider games?
Yes.
There is an animated Tomb Raider show on Netflix now that just dropped. It's pretty good. It's not amazing, but they did a lot of really cool stuff. Some of the action sequences are really, really cool. I think the story's fun. It's good. I would definitely recommend watching it. There's only 8 episodes, so it's a quick watch.
How like is it more so like the old Tomb Raider, she was like sort of like Indiana Jones age, like middle age kind of, and like veteran Tomb Raider, but in the new remake she's much more like
new to the deal.
Yeah, it's like the origin stories. Is this an origin?
It is a full-on like continuation of those games.
Oh, really?
So it's the same Lara Croft. So online it says it takes place after all 3 of the games that have come out.
Okay.
But it really, to me, kind of feels like it comes after the first one, because she's in the second one and the third one, she's like pretty self-assured, and you're kind of just like doing your tasks and saving the world. And it's a little less than like the first one is very. She's shipwrecked on an island and she's trying to survive, and she's trying to like, rebuild herself out of the fire of everything getting destroyed. Mm-hmm. This one feels like it's somewhere in between, where she's like pretty self-assured, but she's slingshotted the other way, where she's like too self-assured. And it like that's a huge problem between her and like her friends in the show. It's got Haley Atwell as the voice of her, which we talked about this in Borderlands. It's like, and Jack and I were talking about this while we were watching. It's like Haley Atwell's great, Jack Black is great, but the character that Jack Black voiced already had a voice actor,
right?
And the character that Haley Atwell voices in this already had a voice actor. So it's really bizarre.
Yes,
that they didn't get her.
Like, I'm glad to see Haley Atwell like doing stuff, because she is somebody
great.
Who is far more talented than her like her career. You know what I mean? Like she's great in everything, and I always just feel like, why don't we see more Haley Atwell and stuff? I don't get it.
Agreed. And it's like, and that's where I'm so conflicted. And Jack and I both were like so conflicted when we were watching it, that we were just like, this is great and she's doing a great job, but also like it's kind of strange. But again, the show's super cool. I think it's definitely worth a watch. It's got bits that are not perfect. There's occasional like episodes where you can see where the animation budget went, which I feel like I don't normally notice as much. But there was one section of one episode that I was like, Jesus, when was this animated? Like 15 years ago? Because the rest of it, it's got the like new X-Men, X-Men 97 style animation more than anything. But were a couple of times where it like feels like it goes to the X-Men cartoon from 1997 animation, and I'm just like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, the problem I have with like that sort of like, we want to look like we're doing a hand-drawn style, but we're actually doing a computer-animated style. Like, sort of just makes, there's like a jankiness that doesn't feel endearing. Do you know what I mean? That sometimes occurs. Yes. It's like when you have something from the 90s that like is sort of janky because they had low production, it feels like, oh, okay, that's just sort of like the style of the era, the budget restraints, the technology restraints. But to like make something try and look old, if it doesn't look perfect, then you're like, it's like, I don't know. Like there was one, there are very few that have like pulled that off really well.
Yeah, it's No, it was cool though. I don't think they'll do any more just because Netflix has such a history of like, even if something does really well, they just won't like renew it for a season 2. And this did just okay, I think.
And let me guess, still made they made it seem like it was going to have a sequel.
It has in the same way that any of the games do, where like it has an ending to the story that they're telling, but Lara Croft, is going to go on another adventure immediately.
Yeah.
So like,
because that's sort of the thing.
They could open it up for a new one, but they didn't end it with like, oh, but really, this person's my dad. It wasn't like that kind of like cliffhanger ending or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely
I don't know.
cool.
Netflix does surprise me sometimes. I mean, they let Castlevania run its course.
That's true, and they gave it a spin-off series.
A spin-off series, yeah, that's still going. So I think they're a little more forgiving when it comes to anime style,
hopefully,
at least.
Because the other thing they have control of right now is Scavenger's Reign.
Okay,
and I'm so hoping that they make a second season of that show, because it was one of the best shows I've ever seen, like science fiction wise. So I really, you're giving me hope, Craig.
Okay,
give me hope here, because I kind of forgot about Castlevania getting like 3 or 4 seasons and a spin-off show.
Yeah.
So that would be really cool. I'm hoping for more of Scavenger's Reign. I'd watch more of this Tomb Raider show, and I would watch another one of the Witcher movies that they did that was animated. Like Blood of the Wolf or whatever. That was pretty cool. I would watch more of that.
So is Jonah in this?
Yes.
So
he plays a large role, and it is awesome.
Well, he's the only friend of hers that's in all 3 of the games.
He's the only one who puts up with her shit.
And well, he also, just look this up. He also seems to change ethnicity every single game.
Every single game.
In the first one, he's Pacific Islander. In the second one, he's black, and in the third one, he's like, what is the word? South American. He like has the different hairstyle. It's just so. I remember playing the third game and getting about halfway through and went, holy shit, this is the same guy?
She doesn't just keep a roster of different friends of different ethnicities who are also named Jonah.
Look at Jonah in the first game versus the second game. It's a completely different dude. Like, he looks so different.
Did they do it as a joke? Like, I don't understand.
No, I truly believe.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I truly believe that that they're just Japanese. It's just a Japanese company. And they were like, what do you mean there's a difference between Pacific Islander and black? They're all black, right? No, they're not.
Oh man, no, yeah. God, it's very obvious the like difference. So in the show, he's full on Pacific Islander. I think he's specifically Maori. So like from New Zealand.
Yes.
It makes sense. But yeah, no, in the second game when I was playing that, I'm like, who's this new guy? What happened to everybody else? Because I never bothered to learn any of the characters' names, because like
I only knew Jonah's name.
The only character whose name I knew was Sam is because in the first game she yells it constantly. So it's the only person whose name I knew.
Oh, man.
Someone put on the Reddit, it's actually 3 different people, the Jonah brothers.
Oh, there you go.
God damn it, I love that. Okay, and then my second one.
Oh God, we're still talking.
Yeah. 1972 sci-fi adventure flick Silent Running. You guys had no reaction to that, which makes sense. I had never even heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it before.
It is maybe the most like 70s Star Child thing I've ever seen. There is a like very grassroots granola song that plays throughout the movie, like a lot, like way too much. But if you if you peel back a little bit of that, because I'm fine with some, this has too much. But if you peel back a few layers of that, It is a really cool movie. The like set design is really cool. The robots are adorable. I love the robots in this so much.
Wait, is he just running around and he doesn't make a sound because he's in space?
Yes, that's whole
why it's
thing.
Called silent running. Okay.
Yeah, and he's trying to figure it out because he's like, there should be sound. I'm not in space. I'm in a spaceship.
Yep.
There's air here. So it's a whole movie about the physics of sound. I really, really enjoy it. No, it's in the future. He's on an American Airlines starship with a mission that got sent with multiple of these like space freighters with like 8 pods attached to them that have the last of the forests from Earth on them. And they get an order not to come back and like reforest the Earth, which is what they're expecting. They get an order to jettison the forests and just come back because they're giving up on the mission. And this, like, our main character guy is like, he's like, shit, no, I don't want to do that. So he hijacks the ship. And then the rest of the movie happens. I won't spoil it. It's worth a watch. It's pretty cool. I really like the set design in it. I like the general storyline of it. It's like I said, you kind of got to peel back some like 70s hippie vibes, which is like, I'm fine with it and I'm all about saving forests, but they make it out to be like so ham-fisted throughout that, like, I don't know. There's a lot of parts,
but it's got a vibe to it.
But it's got such a vibe. The look of all of it.
Bruce Dern.
Yeah, the look of all of it. The robots. I can't tell you how much I love those little guys, Huey and Dewey.
Oh, I looked at the cover and I'm like, this looks like Logan's Run.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like Logan's Run. I have not actually seen that one.
We watched it in school for some reason. In middle school. Very strange.
That is strange. But he like teaches these, it's great. He like starts to teach these robots how to garden and tend to the forest. And I love the idea of a robot guardian of a forest.
Well,
there's something about that's nice.
Here's the real question. Are they better than Tars and Case?
Ooh. They're cuter.
Are
they more functional? No. Are they cuter? I would say so, but you'd have to... When you see them move, it's very cute and very... Also, like, I know there's a human inside of that.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the way they're shaped, it's very clear that, like, the legs of them are the hands of the person inside of it, and they're, like, moving on the... It's great. I don't know. I was just looking up, like, random sci-fi movie. I don't even remember how I got onto this, but I saw the plot and I was like, oh, I gotta see this. This is weird.
Somebody must have recommended it already because it's on my watch list. It has already been on there, so
yeah. I mean, give it a watch. It's definitely fun. I enjoyed a lot of parts of it. There were a few parts that I like really laughed out loud, and then a few parts where I was like, good Lord, I need to mute this because this friggin' song is bad.
All right, Will, how about you go so you'll wake up again?
Yeah, I'm awake. I just didn't have anything to add.
It's because you hate me.
No, I just saw a picture of the robots and they look like gonk droids, right? Remember gonk droids? Anybody?
Yes.
Star Wars. They were the droids that went gonk.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely like the person who designed that definitely had to have had a hand in this.
Are those the trash can looking ones?
Yeah. With like clear human legs at the bottom. Anyways. Yeah. So I am going to keep with the theme of recommending something I've already recommended before, but I have been playing a lot of Smash Bros. And the reason why is because I've been playing a lot of Smash Bros. With my kid.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought maybe the reason was that you were practicing for when I come back into town.
Well, part of that,
so that I don't crush you.
I am practicing for that. I've been thinking about it, and I've been like, when these guys come back into town, we're gonna do another Smash sesh, and I am gonna lose.
Wait, is it Smash sesh or a Smash sesh?
It could be both.
It will be.
One and then the other.
One and then the other. No, the one thing that I'm really appreciating, one, like, I haven't been a co-ops game guy in, like, forever. Like, I remember you used to go over to your friend's house and play, like, Nintendo 64, Mario Party, Smash Brothers in the basement. And, like, that kind of kept going sometimes in college and then sporadically throughout. And then, like, online is not nearly as fun as, like, co-op couch fun stuff, So it's, like, nice to just be doing that again. And Nintendo has a really great sense of who their audience is, which is to say that it's adults, but also, like, really small children. So we were playing, like, Mario Kart, and Mario Kart is neat because Jack's only 5, so he can't quite comprehend all the things. He can't, like, watch and move his hands at the same time, really. But they have the ability where you can set it so the game auto turns, it auto accelerates, so he doesn't have to worry about, like, half of the things happening, and all he has to do is turn the controller like he's driving a little car, which he still screws up. And luckily, because he hasn't quite figured out how racing works, he's okay with coming in 12th because 12 is higher than 1. So
yes,
it's better. Yeah. He's going to figure that one out soon. But
I have 12 places, Dad, and you only have 1.
And you only have 1. Yes. And he's like, see, I just passed you. And I'm like, yeah, because I had lapped you earlier. It's fine. So that's been fun. And then Smash Bros. Is the same thing. So we've been playing lately where, like, you can set it so that if you keep winning, the amount of, like, damage you start the level off with increases. So when we first start playing, so, like, when we first start playing, like, we're on even playing field. But if I keep losing, I'll have, like, I'll start the battle off with, like, 120%, or something ridiculous. And then also we'll play, like, teams. So, like, you can set it up so you can, like, so it'll be like me versus Jack and 6 Pikachus, all set to a very high, like, computer. You know what I mean? So then it becomes a lot more, like, it's fun for me and it's fun for him because he is able to just, like, basically just, like, get used to the controls and stuff.
Is Pikachu your go-to computer?
No, I don't like fighting Pikachu.
Ours was always Donkey Kong.
Yeah, Donkey Kong's a good one. I usually end up picking somebody who's, like, big and kind of floaty. So I tend to do, like, Peach or something because, like, Peach can kind of, like, she just pops back up and she moves slow, and then Jack can. So sometimes we'll play where we're on the same team versus a computer. But I don't know. We switch it up all the time.
Okay, who's your? Because I don't remember this. Who's your guy and who's Jack's guy?
Jack's guy for the longest time was Pikachu. And now it's always Pokemon. It's always a Pokemon. So now he's using Mewtwo a lot. When we got Greninja, he, like, did a backflip. He was so excited.
Oh, man. Hell yeah.
Because we watched the XY Pokemon series where Greninja is a big part of it. Ash gets a Greninja.
Nice.
Anyways, but my guy is I want it to be, like, somebody new. I keep trying new people because there's so many players, but it keeps being Link. Every time I'm playing as, like, Little Mac, and I'm like, Little Mac's my guy. I'll, like, die, and I'll be like, all right, time to bring Link out. Here we go.
Yeah.
Gotta get Link out here.
It's fair. I mean, like, I feel like Link is not. I can't fault you for Link being your guy. He's good. He's fun to play.
Well, I like the sword guys. I'm like, all my other guys are sword guys too. I also like Kid Icarus. Is fun. I like anybody who has, like, a special or attack where they kind of fly forward and whack you real hard. So Little Mac has this, like, great, like, punch where he just goes, like, flying through the air and just, like, knocks you. And so I also like doing the thing where you do the wind up and you wait for somebody to land and then you pop them. The one thing I still can't do is ever dodge or block in a timely manner. I still really suck at that. Every time I'm like, I'm going to block, and then I just get grabbed and thrown. And I'm like, I don't like this game. I don't like it.
It's the next level.
It is the next level, and I can't get there.
Yeah, I feel like I end up being sword guys as well.
Yeah.
And like, I'll try other guys, and then I always fall back to Roy.
Oh, Roy's our boy. Slow. I find Roy to be too slow. I want him to be a little bit faster.
He's slow, but hits like a truck.
Yeah, he does hit like a truck.
Love Roy.
Well, that's why I like Mac. Mac hits like a truck, and he's fast. But he is. If you get him airborne and away from like the ground, he falls. He's got no jump, and he's got no like way out of that. Yeah.
Is there okay? There's like a Nickelodeon Smash Brothers, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or like a cartoon. Have you played it?
No.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I really kind of want to.
I mean, I have some desire to play it. I don't really like fighting games to begin with, but I do like Smash Brothers because it's
good.
Well, it's good, and the reason why it's good is because it doesn't feel anything like all the other fighting games are very much like 1v1, punch and punch and punch and punch and punch, and then one of you falls down. You know?
Yeah.
Super Smash is so weird because like you're the goal is to knock people out, and you don't have any health. So like that's the weird part is you just become more knockoffable. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to describe. The higher the
more Nick Offerman.
Yeah, you become more Nick. Like the higher your percentage is, the easier it is to get hit and go flying. You know, and all of the and characters. There's like a really wide variety of like what characters can do and what they can accomplish. You know what I mean? Like and there's some just very strange characters, and I don't know. So, and yeah,
Olimar.
Yeah. Wasn't there was a Sony did it too, didn't they? They had an All-Star Smash or something like that. I
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Where you could play as a bunch of different characters, which I thought about buying, but I think you needed the motion controls to use it.
Oh.
So I was like,
I don't know.
I don't want
that
this.
Seems like it would not be as fun.
Yeah. Yeah, remember when everyone was like, hey, the Wii did this, we're all going to do it. And everyone else is like, why? They're like, because the Wii, you don't want it? Oh. Yeah. Okay, just forget that. Forget we did that. Forget it. Forget it ever happened.
It's an interesting time.
Yeah.
But it brought us Star Wars Kinect.
Yeah, that's true. Because like when the Wii happened, Nintendo would just like kind of like the kid in the corner of the room just like doing his own thing. And then he suddenly one day became the most popular kid in high school. And you're just like the Xbox and Sony were like, who? What? He's still here? I didn't even know he was still here. And he's like, I got the Wii, and like, what the fuck is a Wii? You know? And it's like you can bowl on it.
Wii.
Yeah.
It's French. Yeah, I remember bowling. Like at the beginning, like was the coolest thing in the world, the sports game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was just like free with the console.
Yes.
You just got the console. You didn't even need games for it.
Well, it literally was. It was so many boomers bought it because it was a throwback to what video gaming used to be in the 70s, which is like you'd buy the Pong machine and you'd play the Pong game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or it was like it was very much an arcade thing where it was like, I don't need to know joysticks, button, turning the camera around. It emulates reality. You know what I mean? Like if you want to use it to. Yeah, and also like the whole like I'm gonna point the thing like a remote, and then I'm gonna hit the button and it'll make it go. So like it was just so it harkened back to all of that. But yeah, like everyone's mom bought a Wii because they weren't super expensive, and then they were like, "We have a Wii," and it's like, "Oh, what games do you have? What do you mean?" Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
just the sports.
Yeah, my parents owned a Wii. I have a Wii now because I just took it from them because they never used it. And it has exactly 2 games. It's got the Zelda game and the Monster Hunter game. And that's it. Because I went to go buy some like at GameStop because I got it like maybe 10 years ago from my parents. I was like, oh, I'll go to GameStop and look in the bargain bin and buy some old Mario games and just play them. and they were all still full price. And this was in 2014. It was like $45 from Super Mario Galaxy, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "I'm not gonna buy this."
Good Lord.
Yeah. So
probably still $45.
It probably is. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Speaking of $45, Craig.
Yes.
Hey.
What would you spend $45 on if you were to use that to spend it on a recommendation for the podcast?
Okay, great. So I really like Vincent Price. I think he is equally talented and also extremely hammy, which is such a great combo. But he's been in so many movies. The one I watched recently is called Theater of Blood, and it is very similar to the Abominable Dr. Phibes and its sequel. While those were, the whole thing was he was getting revenge on all the people who he considered to have killed his wife, and he's like outlandish ways of killing them. So it's like partly where Saw got its thing from, because they're just ridiculous things are happening. This one, Theater of Blood, is about him getting revenge. He is a Shakespearean actor, and I do say actor.
You got to.
But the critics didn't like him because he never did anything but do Shakespeare. Like, he never did other kind of plays. And so he jumps when they embarrass him at our award ceremony, he jumps off a bridge and they think he dies. And so they're like, okay, well, whatever. But he survives, and he decides that he's going to get revenge on all these critics by emulating all the Shakespeare plays from his last season. And so, like, every single death is a death of a person in the play, which is pretty interesting.
Very Count of Monte Cristo, very V for Vendetta, which is very clearly a Count of Monte Cristo thing. But yes. Yeah, that's
cool. So it's that 70s cheese that you gotta love. So if you're just looking for something, all these movies of his are very short, 80 to 90 minutes at most, and you're gonna have a good time and appreciate all the garish colors.
What was the name of that one?
Theater of Blood.
Okay.
Yeah. And fun fact, Craig here does a pitch perfect impersonation of Vincent Price.
No, I don't.
Would you say that Vincent Price walked so Nick Cage could run?
Ooh.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
They're different kind of actors.
I know, but you were like, he's both equally as good as he is hammy. And I'm like, so Nick Cage? You know what I mean?
I don't think Nick Cage is hammy, though, in that same way.
Okay, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Yeah, he's not quite. He's not. Maybe he's more corny. I don't know what he is. He's just his own thing.
He's his own thing. That's the whole thing. It's like there has never been, and will never be another Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Was that your only recommendation?
Yep, that's
just
it.
A quick one and done. Wow, Craig, I'm proud of you.
I don't. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Ka-chow.
Speaking of movies that maybe could have had Owen Wilson in them but didn't, based on nothing other than he's roughly the same age as Lee Pace.
Yeah. Okay.
We watched a movie.
Yay!
Yes. We watched The Fall, which is a 2006 adventure fantasy film, produced, co-written, and directed by Tarsem Sinha. No, sorry. Singh? Yes,
yeah.
Tarsem
I think it's
Singh.
Just Singh, yeah.
And starring Lee Pace, Katinka Untaru, and Justine Waddle. It is based on the screenplay of a 1981 Bulgarian film, Yo Ho Ho. So it had a $30 million budget. I believe it made $3 million at the box office.
Yeah,
which is no good. Is 117 minutes long. The tagline, or logline rather, from IMDb is, in 1920s Los Angeles, a bedridden patient in a hospital captivates a young girl with a fantastic tale of heroes, myths, and villains on a desert island. How do you guys think this movie is doing on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, see, this is tough because I feel like anytime there's a cult classic, I have no idea what to do.
That's pretty fair.
I'm going to say 61.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Okay.
I'll do a little higher. I'll do 66.
Phil has it 63.
Ooh,
right?
Okay.
Ooh.
Yes, barely though. Barely.
close
85
one.
audience score though.
Yeah, that feels better.
Craig, you picked this movie. Why?
You had not seen this, right?
Nope. This
Okay.
is this one of those
I forget that every time one of
Yeah.
you picks a movie. I'm like, I don't remember what we talked about 2 weeks ago.
So this was a movie that I had heard about when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it was still in publication, I got every issue of Entertainment Weekly, and I feel like it's one that they covered at least in like previews, and it just sounded interesting. And then over the years, it got a cult following because it had not been really seen by anybody when it initially came out. But I always heard that it was a very beautiful film and just a great fantasy kind of epic. Not epic, but you know what I mean. Kind of in the same vein as like a more modern Princess Bride sort of thing. So I was always curious about it, but it's been very it has not been available very often on physical. Like the physical copies are sometimes sell up to hundreds of dollars just to get it. And so Mubi, MUBI, is the streaming service. They just released it for streaming and they restored it to 4K. So hopefully we'll see a physical release of it. I know the director's trying to do it. So yeah, that was my reason for doing it.
And so none of us had seen this movie before.
It's sort of a rarity.
That is a pretty rare one. Usually, because when picking movies, we're usually kind of recommending in our own right. But yeah, no, this was one of those movies that I heard, like I must have heard about right after it came out. Someone said to me basically like, "Will you like Owen Wilson movies?" Not Owen Wilson movies, sort of.
Wow.
Wow. No, Wes Anderson movies. I was very close. Wes Anderson movies. Have you seen The Fall? And was like, and I was like, no. And they're like,
interesting.
You would like The Fall. You like really stylistic movies. And I remember turning it on and starting to watch it. And I think I said this last week. And then falling asleep or getting bored or something. I don't remember. And I couldn't quite figure out why. And I think, Craig, something you just said just kind of like unlocked something, which is that like a movie like this, when I was younger, and I don't mean like necessarily college age, but before that, I would have found the reality parts of this movie terribly dull. Do you know what I mean? Like if I had watched this as a kid, which I don't even know what it's rated, but it's definitely not a kid's movie. But like I was always such a big fan of fantasy, and I always found reality, especially in movies, to be like the most boring thing ever. So there is probably a part of me that was like somebody told me this is a fantastical fantasy, and when it opens up and it is in Los Angeles in the 20s, and I was probably like, oh, it's one of these kind of films, huh? I probably didn't like love that right away. So it might have been that. And then when we get to the fantasy world, it like cuts away and stuff. And it's not a true fantasy in the sense that like it's a story being told. It's a story about a story being told, which there is a good chance that I saw that and went, oh, I was really looking forward to like a fantasy movie, not like a storytelling movie. You know what I mean?
Like this is you wanted something with its own history.
Yeah,
like everything's already set. Yeah.
I wanted a magical world to explore. I didn't want it to be some other bigger, meaningful thing. So but again, but then on this watching, like, I was much more like, I knew what I was getting into in a lot, and also like my expectation. I don't do as much as what I used to, which is like decide what I wanted a movie. I feel like a lot of people when they go see movies, and this is something I used to do, is you decide what you want the movie to be before you go and see it. And then when you see it, you end up disappointed, you know?
Yeah. Or you were right. And it's like, okay, I was right. And then you walk away like,
right.
Fine.
And and sometimes it works and other times it doesn't, which is why I try to like not watch trailers. Like if there's like a new Star Wars movie coming out, a new whatever movie coming out, I'll maybe watch a couple teasers when it's first coming out. But like if we're getting really close to the movie coming out, I'm not watching any of the trailers because I don't want an idea like in my head of what I think the movie's going to be. I'd rather the movie be told to me. You know what I mean? That is all to say, I really enjoyed this movie. Craig, I don't think we got your reaction, how you felt about the movie.
I loved it.
Yeah. I saw Craig a couple days after we watched it, and I think it was Peter's birthday party, and you just turned to me and goes like, you're just like, I can't stop thinking about the fall. And I was just like, he's like, I think I liked that movie like a lot. I was like, okay, cool, man. Phil, how did you feel about this?
I loved this movie.
Yes.
Okay. I think, and I said this to Jack earlier, and I think this is a bold claim. I think visually speaking, this might be my favorite movie I've ever seen.
That is fair. This movie is absolutely gobsmackingly gorgeous. Like
everything about every scene is just the richest, like wonderfulest painting.
Yes.
It is so good to look at. And there was a part of me that when it started and I kind of started feeling that way, I was like, oh no, is this going to be one of those ones where it's like all style, no substance? And it's like, I'm okay with that sometimes. But then I feel like this one had such a heart to the movie underneath the like gorgeous scenery and gorgeous like visuality of it, that I was just like, this is full on style and there's really good substance here. I love this movie.
And the thing is so much of it, like very little of it seemed to be visual effects. It is all, and none of it is like even sound stages. I think it's all like practical environments, basically.
I didn't know until after that they went to like 26 different countries over 4 years. It took them this long to do that, which I would assume. But like, I'm watching the movie, I'm like, these aren't real places. They can't be. And they're all fucking real places.
Oh my God.
I think when the very first scene, and it was like that stark orange backdrop and a very wide shot, it reminded me a bit of when Simba is running back to Pride Rock. It was very small. Do you know what I'm talking about, Craig?
Yeah.
Anyways,
oh yeah, I know.
Okay.
Song's playing right now in my head.
It reminded me a lot of that, but I think when that shot happened, both Craig and I audibly and uncontrollably just went, "Oh wow!" Or like, like did the most like sound our moms would have made. It was just like, "Oh goodness!"
It was Namibia. I was right.
Yeah. So I think broad strokes, if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend checking it out. Definitely going and seeing it. But basically the story is, and we said this already a little bit, but like Lee Pace is a 1920s stuntman who gets into an accident off screen before the movie starts and is essentially bedridden. It's never what I really like is the movie is about Lee Pace, but it's from the perspective of a little girl with a broken arm who is kind of wandering around this 1920s Los Angeles hospital and just being the most adorable little girl in the world. And so she's kind of eavesdropping on conversations, and so you as the audience don't really get to see anything that's not her perspective, which adds it's like it's a lovely way to do world building, because nothing is like there's no exposition dumps. It's all inferred and implied. But basically what you kind of learn is that he's been paralyzed from an accident involving a horse, which is sort of shown in the very beginning of the movie as well. And so he sort of befriends this little girl who's wandering around. Lee Pace's character does, who I think his name is Roy.
Yeah.
And he befriends her by starting to tell her a very fantastic story. And ultimately, so we're getting into minor spoiler territory. He's doing it to manipulate her, to try and get her to get him morphine so he can kill himself.
Yeah.
So it has a very dark theme throughout, but it is undercut. It's sort of like made softer, however you want to phrase that, by the fact that it's seen through this little girl's eyes. And the thing that is fantastic about the storytelling is that he is telling this story, and the visuals that we see are her imagination. So there are very funny things, like Lee Pace is describing an Indian to this little girl, and the little girl is, I think, Mexican, maybe? I think she's speaking Spanish, right? Is that what we learned?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure where she's from. She's English is her second language.
Romanian.
She's Romanian. Oh.
I thought it was Eastern European.
Oh, okay. I'm not good at picking up on languages at all, apparently. Who knew?
I mean, she hardly ever speaks in not English. There's only one scene.
Right. And to be fair, they were picking oranges and picking oranges in California. I was like, Mexican.
Yeah.
So anywho, but they're Romanian. It doesn't matter. But so Lee Pace is telling a story, and he's talking about an Indian, and when we see this Indian, we see a man from India. And it becomes very clear by Lee Pace's descriptions, like him talking about him standing outside of a wigwam and like
squaw
and the squaw and things, that he means Native American, but she knows Indian. So it's got these really fun moments like that that just make it very charming. You know what I mean? And like, even when he's talking about, like, there's the one character who's a slave, it's very clearly that Lee Pace is telling her a Western. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But she's imagining some like European epic. You know what I mean? With like characters from her neck of the woods. That makes more sense that she's from Romania, that she's imagining people from, sort of the more Europe area.
Yeah.
Eastern European area. Yeah. But none of that is like ever addressed or even like talked about. You know what I mean? Like, it just it's up to you.
Is a layer that's there.
It's up to you to pick up on it, which I think is fantastic storytelling.
This, I feel like I was so, during this whole movie, I feel like I was so lost in Roy and Alexandria.
Yes, that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like very often I do have like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I see it as a movie, and I don't always, I'll connect with the characters and I'll experience emotions with the movie.
Right.
But there was one specific thing in this movie that like hit me in a way that doesn't normally do it I don't normally have this reaction. It later in the movie, so Roy has gotten him pills once. Turns out they were sugar pills. She is then like separated from him. She's sleeping in her like sick people room. And then she gets up in the middle of the night and she goes to try and get him more morphine. because she wants him to be able to sleep, and she just like has connected with Roy in this charming way. She is climbing up to where the bottle of morphine is in the cabinet, and you see her foot start to put weight on this round thing that is, it's going to roll and she's going to fall. I audibly gasped, and I don't normally do that. And I feel like there was something about the charmingness of this movie that completely disarmed me. So when that happened, the heartache that I felt was so instantly painful.
Mm-hmm.
Because she falls and it does this whole scene, and then visually it turns into this entirely different
that was very fun
movie almost, where she becomes a doll that's being operated on with pins.
Yes.
And it is like you said, it's like this movie is from her perspective.
Yes.
So that's what she's seeing is all this stuff, and it just, God, it was this beautiful scene, and it was just heartbreaking, and she was fine, and I was pretty sure she was going to be fine, but I just feel like I don't normally.
She wasn't necessarily. I mean, she hurt her head. She hit it. She probably cracked her head open.
She probably has a concussion.
She probably got a concussion. She very hurt herself, which I thought was interesting because not interesting, but you then see Lee Pace because the thing is Lee Pace starts off as very charming in this. Is he's he's talking to this little girl. He's being very nice to this little girl. And then he becomes more and more kind of reprehensible because he is trying to get this little girl to sneak into another part of the hospital. He gets her to do it. He does it 3 times. The movie's usually 3s. The first time he sneaks into his his roommate's cabinet. He gets Alexandria to sneak in there. It's sugar pills because the guy is a hypochondriac, right? Is that the word?
I think so, yeah.
Where you just think something's wrong with you, even though there isn't.
That's the second time.
That's the second time. Because
the first time is the 3-pill thing.
She just gets him a whole bottle, but then she only gives him 3 pills.
That's right. Because, he thinks he's going to overdose on the sugar pills, right? So, the first time is she goes and she climbs up, grabs morphine. But because he wrote 3, the morphine he wrote was with an E, she saw it as a 3. She thought he only wanted 3 pills. So she threw out a very little kid thing to do. Yeah. Gave him just the 3 pills. He's like, that's not enough to kill myself.
I threw them in the toilet.
He's like, great.
I pretty much just wrote down her lines.
Yeah. And then Lee Pace kind of has a mental breakdown when he realizes he didn't overdose on the morphine. So she goes and gets it for him again. And it is, you realize and his enthusiasm for telling, the first time he tells her the story, he's making up everything and it's very fantastical and he's doing a great job telling the story. And then the second time he tells the story, he doesn't care as much, and it's clear because she changes the characters around. She's like, I want it to be this way, and he's like, fine, whatever, and then it's this, and I'm fine, whatever, you know what I mean? And so he becomes kind of it's just a.
I want to watch it again.
I want to, and the thing that is what I realize this movie is really mostly about is, or at least for me, it became about is that sort of semi precious and slightly magical relationship children have with the adults in their lives, where they just I just remember sometimes I would meet an adult and immediately just decide this adult is my favorite person ever. And when I think back on this person I met, I was I maybe talked to that person for a half an hour. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe an hour, and they made me feel special, and I instantly just that sort of magical, and him taking advantage of that is sort of such a villainous thing in a lot of ways, but also when you realize what his situation is, and his situation is that he is a stuntman who is now paralyzed and wants to end his life, and people aren't, you realize how also desperate he is as a man. So some of his actions do become relatable.
Well,
This is
So he isn't paralyzed because he goes back to work.
He does.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that until the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the reason he's trying
she does the like toe touch test.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he doesn't think he
doesn't feel
it.
Yeah.
Well, he can't because he guesses wrong, and she moves her hand to please him, to make him happy.
Yeah, which is precious.
Which is what little kids do.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he get cured in the end.
Yeah, he goes back to be a stunt worker. Yeah,
that was my interp.
That's what Wikipedia says too. So
okay. I thought she was watching an old movie of his.
That's the completed movie of what he had done. And also something I missed, I didn't realize too, is they cut out his big stunt that caused the accident.
This whole movie goes on because of this giant stunt that he did that got him in this accident. And then when they finally watched the screening, they had cut it out.
Yeah.
So like it was a really cool moment though, because the entire movie is him and this event and him not getting through this event or trying to get through this event in whatever way he's trying to get through it. And then in the end, he like essentially relives the moment.
Yeah.
And the sort of like not meaninglessness of it, but like he is able to see it in a completely different way because it's like it got cut out, and then his face when he's watching it, he like almost smiles when he's watching and he realizes his big stunt that cost him everything and caused all of this stuff to happen and him to go down this like terrible path, just never even made it to the movie. And he just kind of chuckles at that. It looks like he gets like a tiny little smile, and I just thought that was such a cool moment where it was like, wow, he's reacting entirely differently to essentially the same thing.
Right.
Because so for me, like this movie is a lot about like Will, like you said, it's like that relationship with a kid and or the relationship that a kid has from their perspective with you. But I think like another huge thing is like there's a point where he's telling the story, and it's towards the end of the movie, he's killing everyone off.
Yeah.
Because he's drinking, he wants everything to be over, and it feels like he wants her out of his life. Because he feels like he's a detriment to her.
Yeah, it's very much that was okay. So this is one of the moments in the movies that I felt myself disconnecting slightly, like and not liking the movie as much as I wanted to like the movie, because this felt very much like John Lithgow and Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah,
it was like you don't need, where he's like deliberately being mean to push the person away, to be like, look, I had a reaction watching it, which was that like I was sort of like I kind of wanted him to go a different direction, and because he didn't, he became less like. Again, I'm saying what I said earlier, which is where like you prescribe what you want a movie to do in the moment. So like I am admitting I very well could be wrong. You know what I mean? Like I was just while I was watching it feeling like that was the part I was like this feels a little bit corny. That's what it felt. It was just a little corny to me.
So what I liked about that part, I found it to be just like this very, very intense sequence of him telling this, like, because she's now in the story.
Yeah.
When we're watching the fantastical bits, she's in it, and he has become the main character. It was her dad, and now it's him. She made it him, and then she inserted herself in the story. At the end of this, we're watching all of these characters die because Roy wants to die, and he wants this girl out of his life. He's like, I'm a detriment to her. I'm a problem. We can't be like, this can't be a friendship or any sort of connection thing. But there's a point where she's like, why are you killing all these people? Why are you making them all die? And he's like, well, it's my story. I can do whatever I want. And she said, no, it's my story too. And that for me was like this huge moment of like, for Roy, like, it's not his story anymore. He's made this connection with someone else,
which is
and like
exactly
not that he owes her to like get through this, but like there is still something there.
Yeah,
for
it's
him.
it's very clearly, it's not a metaphor, but it's parallel to killing yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The idea of killing yourself, which is like you're tired of your own life. It's like, well, it's not, your life is not only your life, it's also all the people in your life. You know what I mean? Like, which is an argument against suicide, So it makes, it definitely, it's very on theme, which is good. That makes it a good movie.
Yeah. I think it was the little girl in this movie that just, like, the way she delivered her lines, to me at least, really felt like a little kid delivering those lines in real life.
So, just to give
you
a
guys
little,
have kids, I don't know if you'll agree, but for me it was like the way she stumbled over things and the way she explained things.
She was the
I've
most
had this conversation with a child.
Yeah.
Oh, all of her
those
line
words
deliveries
don't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So what they had to do is basically put up a sheet, like a scrim, and poke holes in it so they could film, because she had like no scripted lines. They just let her do her thing, be a kid.
Yeah.
And so almost
that explains everything.
Yeah. And so that's why she's chewing on her coat collar, like
yes.
all my kids do. And she
was
sneezes.
chewing on her pass.
She just sneezes in the middle of it, and like all these other cute little kid things, because she is just being a kid.
Yeah.
There was a conversation when she brings him the Eucharist. She brings him,
oh my god,
thinking it's just food,
God.
and she's like, here, it's food, and he's like, he eats some, and he goes, are you trying to save my soul? And she's like, what? She's like, are you trying to save my soul? And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, you brought me the Eucharist. I brought you the what? No, the thing you brought, that is the Eucharist. Okay. Are you trying to save my soul? Am I trying to what? And Craig and I were just like, Jesus, it's just like talking to our kids. Because what he was doing was making an obviously adult joke at a child, which is I do constantly to my kids.
Same. Yeah.
And they just turn around and go like, the hell are you trying to say? I'm like, never mind. And then I like explain it to them, and it's just like dead behind their eyes.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't really know. Yeah. But yeah, no, she was, and the whole like her telling this trying to tell the story, like stopping him from telling the story, and when the one lady is like moving around, you know what I mean? In the story, the nurse is like moving around, not the nurse, but I don't remember, the princess lady or whatever.
Yeah.
And Lee Pace just like looks at her and just goes like, the bathroom's down the hall. Do you need to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
She's just like, and then it cuts back to reality. And she's like, no, I don't need to go. And he's like, I think you need to go. Are you sure?
Yeah. There's another part in the story where they kidnap this princess or fiance of the governor they're all trying to kill in the story.
Oh yeah.
And there's a priest in the carriage with her who comes out, and it's clearly like Lee Pace's story is going to be dark as hell.
Yeah, he's going to be a bad guy.
He was doing in that, like he was going to be a bad guy, and the girl's like, "Oh, the priest's a good guy, right?" And he's like, "No, yeah."
The priest brings out a stick to like whip a kid. And he's like, wait, but the priest's a good guy, and he's like, yeah, he brought the stick out there was a snake. There was a snake. And he's just gonna stop the snake. That's just so funny.
I was reading something else about that. Is the finished, like the original film had cut out a little bit, and so that really cool shot of when the priest is at the wedding, like, oh no, the priest actually was double crossing them, and then it goes up to his face, and then it turns into the rocks.
Yes,
and so it's like that is just something
he had an acting role in 2006. I mean, I guess The Mummy Returns was around.
Okay,
the same time.
all right, that's enough.
hey, I'll be here all week.
So he set up the shot just to make that, and he made the guy have that stupid haircut, but they had cut that part out of the finished film, and so because we have the extended director's cut version that we watched, that's why we get to see that really cool transition where the rocks turn into the guy's face.
That whole scene
that was just such a neat shot.
Yeah,
that was a great shot.
Yeah.
That whole scene with the spinning dancers in the wedding, and the guys
the whirling
around,
dervishes,
the whirling dervishes, and the whole time the camera is also spinning because at this point Roy is supposed to be passing out from an overdose of morphine.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is spinning, and it just, that scene was so cool.
Yeah.
Everything about, oh my God, this movie, man, it jumped straight up to like possibly a new, not like my number one movie, but this is on the list of like, this could be top 10 for me. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I did it.
So many bits of it. Like, it had all the things I love visually, and then it had all this like heart behind it, even though Lee's story or Roy's story is like so dark.
Yeah.
But the end of it is like, he's made it through, he's got this connection, and it's like the importance of, you know, found family, or like a found family connection, or things like that. And I think it's part of it is it's hitting me at the right time of like, we've just sold the house and we're about to move back to friends and family.
Yeah.
So watching this, where it was like, he's this like isolated, sad guy, and not that I'm like an isolated, sad guy, but like all my friends and family are in Michigan and I'm in Colorado. So I'm watching this movie, and the end of this movie is that he makes it through and gets to live his life doing the thing. He had that connection with the kid and like all this wonderful stuff, and he like made it through. And I'm over here, I'm like about to move back to Michigan, and it just like, I think this hit me at the exact right time.
Yeah.
That this will forever be a movie that I just absolutely love. So thank you, Craig.
Nice. Yeah.
I did everything. I made the whole movie myself.
You did all of this.
Yeah.
So Will didn't out me, but it took me way too long to realize he was trying to kill himself. I was like, oh yeah, he's having...
It was the end of the movie.
He's
it
having...
was right now when we're talking.
No, it's when... Because he's like, oh, I need him to go to sleep. I'm like, oh, he's just in a lot of pain, so he needs help.
Yeah.
And then, because I didn't think this movie was like... I had a dark undertone to it. And then as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, shit.
To be fair, I went to him trying to kill himself immediately. And by that, I mean...
two wildly different poles.
Because I was like, oh, the accident was him trying to kill himself.
Yeah, that's what you had said. Yeah.
Yeah, because, somebody said, like... so he was talking to an actor friend who had his leg missing. But he, as he was leaving, that character said something like, no woman is worth dying for. And I thought he was to imply that what put him in the hospital in the first place was some sort of accident where he tried to kill himself. But I don't think that was it at all. That was me.
Okay though, but
doesn't he?
I think that's a whole other layer that could absolutely be legit.
Well, because didn't he say it wasn't the whole thing that his girlfriend had dumped him for this other guy?
Did his girlfriend dump him
for the star?
Yeah.
Oh.
So did he screw up the jump on purpose? I didn't even think about that until just
am I
now,
a genius?
and that's a whole other. You're a genius. Yeah. That's a whole other cool layer, because this whole movie is presented as, oh, he's depressed because of the fall, and also his girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, I thought he. Well, this is the thing. The movie doesn't exactly tell you anything. It doesn't tell you anything.
I love that about this movie. Thank you, this movie. It was wonderful.
And so, like, she's left him. His girlfriend has left him. And I thought it was because he had the accident, because she didn't want to be with somebody who was disabled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was just shallow or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe she left him previous to the accident, which kind of also makes sense, because she was with another guy, and I'm like, boy, that happened quick. But maybe she just sucks. Who knows? You know?
In the story, remind me how the guy dies at
Which
the
guy?
end. The villain.
So this is my favorite death of all time. So they at the very end, General Odious is this big bad who's being played up through the whole story
also,
that Lee Pace is telling the little
10
girl.
out of 10 name.
Yes, loved it. And so, of course, the actor who plays General Odious is the actor who stole Lee Pace's girlfriend away. And so he fights with Lee Pace in a pool, right? In like a pond, like and starts drowning Lee Pace's character. Lee Pace's character decides to live. And then I think punches him, and he passes out, and then they leave. And then the bad guy gets up and falls back onto his own sword.
Yeah.
Which is like set in a really strange way. on the side of the pool, and he just like slides into it, and he's like, "Oh no!" And it's like,
So he does that. It cuts over to the rest of the story cast, and then I think as they're having like a moment, it cuts back to the guy, and he's got just like a sword wound, and he's floating in the pond, and he just says, "I'm not feeling very well."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm not feeling very well."
I fucking lost it at that.
Yeah, it was very funny.
I'm not feeling very well.
I love the, like, after that whole part, just, it was a very Wizard of Oz ending where you realize everyone in the story is somebody. You know, the Indian man was another orange picker. And there's a couple other ones. I don't remember who exactly
like
they were.
The guy with the missing leg. The other actor who spoke to him early in the film was Luigi. One of the orderlies was Darwin. Obviously, nurse.
Yes.
Whatever her name was is
Evelyn.
the love interest. The guy with the ice who delivered ice
Oh,
to
yeah,
the
was the-
hospital was the slave. And then
was the mystic the guy with the no teeth? Because they had a whole thing about his teeth falling out.
No,
but
I
it
don't.
didn't look like the same guy.
I don't think it was. I think that was. I think I looked it up later. It was somebody else though.
Yeah, because we were confused about that at first.
Yeah, I had the cast somewhere. Oh,
Mystic he was another orange picker.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
okay.
just. I think he was just
Okay.
another orange picker.
Because they did a whole bit about the mystic losing his teeth,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and there was another guy in the hospital who was taking his dentures out.
yeah, and
And
his power
when they
was
did
in
that
his
scene,
teeth.
I was like, "That's not the guy, though. All the other
Yes.
people are guys."
Yeah.
but, like,
But the mystic law, like she thought that people held their power in their teeth because that's what Lee,
right.
Yeah.
Lee
He said
Pace.
that.
He's like, why does what's his name soak his teeth in water every night? And he's like, well, his power is in his teeth, and so he needs to like clean them. I can't remember exactly the wording.
God, this
And
movie.
so like later when the mystic is
Holy
losing his
shit.
power, the mystic
It keeps
teeth
getting
fall
better
out.
and better.
It seriously does. This was such a
Yeah.
good movie.
It really was.
And I liked. We didn't talk about Darwin at all. How he got all his ideas from his monkey.
Yeah.
Wallace, was it Wallace? I think it was Wallace the monkey.
Yeah.
And it's so sad at the end. He's like, "I'll tell him it was all from you."
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it was very Rogue One, and like when they're all getting killed off. Like, no,
Yeah.
this is actually making me sad.
Oh yeah.
But-
that whole sequence where they're dying was really hard to watch.
Yeah. Didn't like that.
But also.
But I loved it. Yeah. And then another film I watched this year was The Fall Guy, and that's
Yeah.
another kind of ode to stunt men and stunt women, of course. And the end of this movie is just clips of like the most famous silent movie stunts.
Just the craziest
Yeah.
batshit stunts I've ever seen. I feel like I've seen them all before, but to see them all like put next to each other, you're just like, oh my God. Like people are like literally crashing trains together.
Yeah.
Like, and then jumping out of trains. It's like, it's just,
Yeah.
I think,
The one with the two guys on the ladder
yeah,
on either side of the car, like balancing.
Yeah.
just what the hell? Yeah. Just
God.
crazy stuff. Yeah, so this is a really good movie. I highly recommend people go and give it a watch.
All right.
Are we ready to give some ratings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, what you got?
Okay. I'm gonna give this. I'm not little. I am 5 out of 5.
That was a quote.
I pretty much only wrote down the lines that the little girl said because
Yeah.
I was so unbelievably charmed
so
by all of the things she said.
Yeah, she like the whole time Craig and I were just like, God, this just reminds me of my kids.
Yeah.
Except for the one thing I was like, she's not loud enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She
Oh,
has way
yeah.
too much control over the volume of her own voice. Which is something my kids have none of.
Nope.
Craig, what would you give this?
5 out of 5. Demolition expert who doesn't explode anything until his death.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty good.
That's I did not even think about that.
Yeah, there was that one scene goes on for a while, and I'm like, what about the bomb? And then they in the movie they go, oh, the bomb. I'm like, yeah.
I'm gonna give this 5. I will destroy him and everything Spanish. I thought he was Spanish. No, he was French.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's. Gosh.
Just like Lee Pace's character, like covering up plot holes on the fly. It's just like really, really funny to watch. Yeah. So yeah, this is a Best Picture movie.
Yeah,
of course.
Pleasant surprise. When I'd like to try and do this more often, where I try to pick something out.
Yeah, no one's seen.
But I don't know if I'm gonna hit the target like that one did.
Yeah, I mean, I was fully expecting to be bored. I was like, okay, this is gonna be a long movie. It's gonna be very like plotting and strange, and Phil's gonna really like it, and Craig's got some nice things to say, and I'm gonna be the one asshole who's gonna be like finding problems with it because I thought it was this art piece because I don't know, I had a weird memory of it. And I was like, oh no, what the hell was wrong with me? God, this movie's great.
Well, I kind of turned to Will. I'm like, this is a little like Wes Anderson. You're like, it's a lot like Wes Anderson. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
And I was like, it's a ton like, just all the symmetry in the shot.
It's like a non-pastel.
Yes. Yeah.
Wes Anderson with a very different.
Yeah, it's a completely different vibe, but it definitely has that sort of like a lot of the just, locked off shots. Using the space to tell the story, using the actors moving in and out of shots into the space to tell the story. Not a lot of fancy like camera movement or even action, to be honest. Just a lot of perspectives, which is what I like about Wes Anderson. I love the way he frames shots. Anyways, Phil,
yeah,
your turn next. Yes, Phil. What are we watching next week?
Here's the problem, guys. We just watched a great one, and I feel like anything I pick is going to pale in comparison.
Just don't worry about that. Don't worry about
what I want to do is pick something that I know is going to be bad.
Oh no!
You already did that.
I would like to watch Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
Okay, it sounds like a movie I'm going to like quite a bit.
So this came out in 1966, and I'm going to try and do this. It was originally released as a double feature with Jesse James meets Frankenstein's daughter.
Okay.
I'm going to try and watch both.
Okay.
To do the double feature for myself.
I'll join you on that one.
This has been on my list for a while because it sounds so dumb. But also I like the mixture of horror and westerns. It's something I'm very into, and there's not enough of them in my opinion. I don't think this is going to meet what I want out of a horror western, but I think we're all going to have a great time making a lot of fun of it. Or having a completely different conversation and then going, yeah, we watched this movie. Okay, we're done. And I'm excited about either of those prospects.
I like that the similar films it has on Letterboxd is Near Dark. Like, speaking of vampires and westerns.
I really liked Near Dark.
I love that.
I love that one, yeah.
I just recommended that to people because
another movie that's hard to find.
Yeah. I don't remember the context, but somebody was talking about they were talking about a movie not being their cup of tea, and then somebody had said something about vampires maybe. And I said, one man's Twilight is another man's Near Dark or something like that. And they all thought it was a different movie, and I was like, no. I gotta explain this to you now. This movie's great.
Not a very well-known movie.
Movies with my best friend.
Thank you for liking and subscribing to the podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. If you want to tell us who your favorite character was in the fall and why it was the monkey.
This episode is brought to you by Dan Bader. Woo! If you're interested in helping support us and hear your name shouted out on the podcast, consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/mumbleandshrug.
If you like what you heard, give us a like on any of our social media platforms. Give us a like and subscribe. Smash that bell to get notified of. That's a thing, right? That's
on
a
YouTube.
Thing.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's a YouTube thing. Smash that bell, baby. That's all for this episode. I am Bill Kessel.
I'm Will Chodas.
I love you.
And I'm Craig Norland.
I love you.
Oh, God.
Go watch this movie and tell somebody you love them.
Yeah. You definitely go watch this movie. You know, I mean, I can't endorse the other one, you know.
Tell a random stranger.
Just, you know, I just
don't do that.
I was raised by Republicans. It still makes me uncomfortable to think about, you know.
Yeah,
saying
that's fair.
that stuff, saying those
I'll
words.
fix that someday.
I barely say it to my kids, you know. Only if they're good will I say.
Aw.
Say that.
Well, it should be conditional.
It's only if they do good things for me, you know.
Yeah, that
like
makes sense.
Getting me stuff, buying me presents, which they haven't done yet. So
Oof.
guess what I've never said. Is this a fun character? Should I keep this one up?
Yeah.
This is really enjoyable. I think everyone loves this bit.
Brought to you by Mumble and Shrug Productions.